Hello everyone, what is up? Welcome back to another episode of My Thoughts Exactly. Thank you guys so much for joining me here today. If you're new here, hi, my name is Savannah and I'm your host of My Thoughts Exactly. And before we get started, make sure you go ahead and hit that subscribe button. That way you never miss an episode. We post weekly here on the podcast every single Wednesday. You're not going to want to miss it. We also upload the video version onto YouTube on Fridays as well. So make sure you are subscribed. And with that being said, you guys, happy Friday. I hope you all have had a great week. And if you haven't, guess what? It's Friday. It's the weekend. You did it. You made it. Happy Friday, you guys. I actually am pre-filming this video. I am filming this video right after I filmed last week's video, which if you did not catch it, it was the first part of the What Would Sav Do? We are now doing part 2 to that right now, but I pre-filmed this week's episode last week because when you hear this episode, I actually am going to be in San Diego, which is so crazy. I have not been back in San Diego in so long. The last time I was there was about a year and a half ago. We went for Thanksgiving, not this past year, but the year before that. So it definitely has been quite some time since I was there. None of my family lives in San Diego anymore. My brother lives in New York. My dad lives here with my mom. And we also we go back and forth a little bit between California and here, but we don't have our home that we lived in when we lived in San Diego anymore. So we have an apartment out there that we've had for quite some time, but we're actually getting rid of that apartment as well, which is going to be so crazy because it's when I go to San Diego, it's I'm not going to have a home. I don't know. I know I'm 28 and that's just kind of as to be expected. But when you grew up somewhere the majority of your life and you just feel there's no roots planted there anymore, it is a little bit of a detached feeling and an unsettling feeling. Granted, I have chosen not to go back for the past year and a half, but I am very, very excited to go back. I'm just excited to I don't know. You know, when you haven't been home for a while and you get off the plane or you step outside and you're it just feels familiar and comfortable and nostalgic. I know I'm going to feel that way. I also think that I'm going to be bringing my mic and my camera and everything, and I will do an episode in San Diego because it's just me and my dad that are going. So I'm going to have a lot of free time on my hands. Expect a vlog, expect probably the next episode that you see to be from San Diego, and probably just recapping on my thoughts and being back. And I know myself. I know it's going to make me nostalgic. I know I'm going to go down I'm going to have all these feelings of growth and stepping into a new era and a new chapter. So watch it. I know that is what next week's episode is going to be about. So you'll probably see, if you see a different background and a different setting next week, that is why. And I'll probably remind you again, but that is why. But anyways, you guys, we are here to do part 2 to the What Would Sav Do that we did last week. And like I mentioned last week, if you want to be a part of these, all you have to do is just keep up with the My Thoughts Exactly Instagram. It's just My Thoughts Exactly podcast is what the handle is. And if you follow us there, you will be able to keep up with all of the things that we talk about whenever we have any interactive stuff, What Would Sav Do's, or just any questions or polls or whatever. That's where all of that goes. So make sure you follow that account. And with that being said, we are just going to jump right on into it. I met a man in Miami when I was there in January. I ended up going to visit him 2 weeks ago for the weekend and had such a good time. He told me he wanted to visit me where I live, and we still talk almost every day. So now I'm conflicted if I bring it up or wait for him to bring it up. I feel the validation that he likes me. That's not the problem for once. LOL, thanks. If the question is whether or not you wait for him to bring it up or if you bring it up about him coming to see you, I would definitely wait. I would not bring that up. I would wait for him to bring it up. I would wait for him to make the move. I would say that the ball is in his court right now. You went to visit him. Now it's up to him to come and visit you. If you feel confident that he likes you and you feel confident that he's giving you validation and reassurance, then I think that there's nothing to worry about. And I would just kind of wait for him to make that move because I think that he should be the one chasing after you and not the other way around. And so I would totally wait for him to make that move. I know it could kind of feel leave you feeling a little antsy and oh my God, when is he going to say it? When is he going to bring it up? But I would not bring it up. I would wait for him to bring it up because he's the one that wants to come visit you. Let him court you. Let him chase you. This is the year where we get chased, not the other way around. The good kind of chasing, not the bad kind of chasing. One of my biggest fears, you guys, this is such a side topic. I hate getting chased up the stairs. I've realized this about myself. I don't like when anyone is walking behind me on stairs because I feel like they are chasing me. And Hayden has really amplified this fear for me because now he knows it and now he chases me upstairs and it really scares me. It gives me a lot of stress and anxiety. So when I say chase, I mean like the courting, the going after, like the good kind of chasing, which I'm sure you guys knew, but it just happened last night and it was just fresh in my mind. Anyways, moving on. How to get out more and enjoy life if you have no friends and are scared to go out alone. What would Sav do? I think that this is something that a lot of people deal with. I think that many people who feel a little bit of a social anxiety or just stress being out alone, it's not going to be as comfortable for you to like take yourself out to dinner or to, go put yourself out in like to a major social setting. I would say that if I were you and you want to get out and you want to live life a little bit more and you want to enjoy things a little bit more, I would find the things that you are comfortable doing and I would put them into a public setting. I think if you like art, like if you are really into painting or you're really into sketching, I would go to an art class. Like there's paint and sip classes. If you didn't want to drink, you don't have to, but there's settings where you can put yourself out there and you can join in where it's like you can be there and you can be surrounded by people, but you can be focused on yourself and what you're doing. If you want to join, like let's say you love running, there's running clubs everywhere. Go on Facebook. We talked about this last week with like the Facebook groups, or sorry, 2 weeks ago with the Facebook groups. And finding like a running club or a yoga club or really just kind of pushing your boundaries just a little bit to not to where you're extremely uncomfortable, but where you're challenging yourself a little bit to just, just dip your toe into it just a little bit. And I promise you, it is okay. I think that I know myself personally a couple years ago, I felt very similar about feeling like, how do I put myself out there? But like, I'm not a social person. And honestly, I'm like kind of the opposite. Being in social settings by myself makes me wildly uncomfortable, but finding things that I loved that I could do in a social setting was really nice. I love yoga classes, like doing something like that where I'm putting myself out there to the point where like I'm getting out of the house and I'm, going and doing something that I enjoy and I'm surrounded by people, but I'm still focusing on myself and I'm also doing something beneficial for myself. Let's say you can even, take the workout classes off the table, but you could also just make yourself a little picnic and go to like a local park, during the day and like bring some of your favorite things, listen to a podcast, like go sit out and, bring your computer out there if you have work to do on your computer, like just little things that you can do that just inch out of your comfort zone, going to a coffee shop instead of just like sitting at home. And if you like work remote, I know for me, someone who works remote, it can feel very routine to constantly be at home and just like working from my house or working from my desk. So not a lot of times, but every time I do it, I feel a lot better. I just push myself a little bit, go work at a coffee shop, go get a new environment, go get a change of scenery. It helps so much. And I promise you, the little bit that you do over time will make you feel confident into exceeding that line just a tad more each time. So I guess my biggest piece of advice would be finding things that you enjoy doing, finding your passions that you love individually, and seeing how you can practice those in a more public setting. Does that make sense? That would be my advice. My situationship wants to discuss relationships with me, but every time we've done that before, it's caused a massive argument because he's always says I'm pressuring him to be with me. We've been talking over a year and he has a lot of problems, like alcohol problems, but I don't know if I should stick it out and fight for it or cut my losses and try to move on. What would Sav do? P.S. I love you. I've been here forever. Well, I love you too. I would say if I were you, because I see your name, I know that you've written in before. I kind of have an understanding of like the submissions that you've written before. I would leave. I would say that if you are with someone who every time you bring up, the potential of being together, they make it into this grand thing and, oh my God, how could you ask me this? Or you're pressuring me to be with you, blah, 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 blah. Why would you want that? Like that's let's put that right there. That's one box. That's one thing. The other thing is you've already pointed out he has some struggles. He's dealing with some alcohol issues. Why would you want to put yourself in a position where you would want to be with someone like that. I'm not saying that, and let me just make this very freaking clear. I'm not saying that people who struggle with any sort of addiction aren't lovable, don't deserve love, don't deserve relationships. But I do think that if that's where you're already starting out, I think that what he needs to do is focus on himself rather than jump into a relationship with anyone. And I don't think that you should put yourself in that position to where you get into a relationship with him, expect a certain type of girlfriend treatment when he needs to be focusing on his self right now and his health and his addiction. I think that that is entirely what should be the priority here, not getting into a relationship. If I were you, I would not continue seeing him. I would, if you want to just keep him around for like a friends with benefits, like, okay, but that is what I would like. That's the max that I would do with this. I would not try and be in a relationship with him. I would not try and take this to the next level. I would and I say this very seriously, I would just not really continue this in any capacity, because I don't think that it's going to be beneficial for you, and I don't think that it's going to be beneficial for him. I think it's very clear that you said it yourself. There's toxicity in this. It's, you're on and off, it's up and down. There's the adrenaline of it all. And I think that there's no point in getting into a relationship at this current moment if it's already this toxic, because if it's already this toxic, you getting into a full-on relationship is not going to fix that. It's only going to stay the same and get worse, by the way. So if I were you, I would make the conscious decision and the conscious effort to separate yourself and to not see him anymore. I would, if you have to, like, I don't really know what the situation is, but I mean, I would just not be around him as much as you possibly can. And I would just communicate that, listen, you clearly don't want to be in a relationship, and I respect that completely. I want to go find someone who wants to be in a relationship with me. And I think that that is the path that I'm headed towards. And so I just don't think it's good for us to continue this, because clearly we're very toxic for each other. And as much as I do care about you and I, respect you as a person, love you as a person, whatever, I just don't think that we're right for each other romantically. There's nothing wrong with that. And in fact, I think that that's your best, point of action right now. So that's what I would do. Those are my thoughts right there. Your partner is hearing you, but not listening to you, and it's taking a mental toll. Oh my God, you guys, I could do an entire episode on this. I feel like this is so common, and I feel like it's something that a lot of people struggle with, because I think that especially as women, we find ourselves in these positions where we are constantly repeating ourselves, and we're like, why are you not listening to me? There's such a difference between hearing and listening to someone. Anyone can hear someone. Anyone can just someone's talking. Yeah, I get it. Yeah. It's very surface. But listening to someone, realizing the root of what they're saying, realizing the effect of what they are talking about and what that actually means to them and what they need and what they want, that's an entirely different thing. And it requires a certain level of emotional intelligence in order to do that. I know that we think why is it so hard to listen? It really isn't, but a lot of times people just lack that emotional intelligence in order to listen, because either A, they just don't have it, or B, they're too busy focusing on themselves and their own life to ever really listen or care about what someone else is saying. I have been in situations in the past where I have said multiple times the same thing. I feel like I'm constantly repeating myself, or if there's a problem and I bring it up, I feel like I'm not being fully heard. And I have had to have conversations, and just to be transparent, I had to do this with Hayden in the beginning of our relationship, where I had to sit him down after feeling like I wasn't being truly listened to. I feel like he was hearing me, but he wasn't fully listening. And I remember sitting him down in the very beginning of our relationship, and I was like, listen, I feel like when I say things, it's not being fully digested. I feel like when I say things, you want to jump to the quick fix, or you want to just jump to the, okay, what can we do about this, without really digesting what I'm saying and understanding the impact and the effect that it has on me. And when you do that, it hurts me, because it makes me feel like you don't care about what I'm saying. And when we had that conversation, it was like a light bulb went off in his head, and he was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry you feel this way. He was like, I would never want you to feel this way. And he really started to listen, and we have not had that problem since. I think that obviously sometimes it's not that easy. I've had this situation in previous relationships where I've had to consistently remind of are you really listening? Are you really hearing me? Are you really digesting what I'm saying? And so I totally understand how that can take a mental toll on you, because I've been there, and it has taken mental tolls on me too. And it becomes really discouraging after a while. while because you're like, why the hell am I even talking if you're not listening to me? Especially if this is your partner, if this is someone that you love, if this is someone that you want to be with and you feel like you are giving them, all of you and you're listening and you're hearing them out and you hear what they're saying where like you don't feel like you're getting that back. That's discouraging. And I think that instead of having it come up in a heat of a moment conversation where you're like, well, you don't listen to me and it's all angry and it's, you get heated up and things get tense. I would either the next time you feel like this happens, bring this up in a very calm way. Or if you feel like you want to bring it up before that, I think that's totally fair too. I would just be like, listen, something that's been on my mind lately has been, I don't feel fully heard. And I would go into your reasonings why. I would go into your reasonings about what that makes you feel like. I would go into your reasonings of the toll that it takes on you because your feelings are completely valid. You being heard is a necessity in a relationship. And if someone is not able to provide that for you, then that is not the right relationship for you to be in. And so I do think it's important to make it known. I think it's important to communicate that to whoever you're dating. But if that is not the biggest wake-up call for someone to be like, oh my God, the person that I'm with isn't feeling heard, then that is a huge red flag. I do think, and I've always said this, I think it's very important to communicate what we feel is lacking or communicate our thoughts pertaining to our relationship because our partners cannot read our minds as much as we would very much love them to. Trust me. I feel like I've had that conversation with Hayden so many times where he's like, I cannot read your mind. And I'm like, I really wish you could. But I think that it's always important to voice your thoughts and your feelings and your opinions and how they're impacting you. And then the reaction you get, the response you get is telling. If they turn it around on you and say, you're being dramatic, you're making something out of nothing. Why are you doing this? Why are you trying to pick a fight? Red flag. Red flag. If they meet you with anything other than, oh my God, I'm so sorry you feel like that. I wasn't even aware that that was something that I was doing or something I was making you feel like. I'm really going to work on being better at that because I love you and I care about you and I want you to feel supported. Red flag. That's the only thing that should be coming out of their mouth. The only thing. And so I am always a big advocate for expressing your feelings and your emotions once and seeing how they respond. And if they don't respond in a way that is appropriate or accurate or understanding, then it's time to have a bigger conversation about what's really going on here. Why are they not listening? Is it because they don't care? Is it because they don't want to? Is it because they're selfish and they feel like it's not important? Because those are the bigger questions to ask. So I would have the conversation, see the reaction you get, and then go from there and dictate how you want to navigate the rest of the relationship based on that conversation. But I do think it's important to have the conversation because I don't think that we can make like these rash decisions when we haven't communicated fully what we think. And I do think that sometimes it's different to say, in the midst of a conversation, you're not listening to me or you're not hearing me versus having a sit down conversation where you fully get into the depths of how that makes you feel. Because I think, again, when you're like throwing out, oh, you're not listening to me, oh, you're not hearing me, that oftentimes just goes over their head too. They need to actually, like a lot of times, and this is just, it's annoying, but like you need to like get it through their head. And oftentimes that comes with a sit down conversation and their reaction will be very telling. He said he wants to be with me, but he ghosts me, but I really like him. And we've been on and off since 2019. Okay. He doesn't want to be with you. I'm so sorry. That is the big sister truth. That is the harsh truth. And that is his way of being able to string you along since 2019. We are in 2025. That is 6 years. 6 years he has had to date you. Has he? No. That is his way of stringing you along and making sure you're always just close enough to where he has access to you whenever he wants because he knows that you like him and he knows that he can use that to his advantage. He does not want to be with you. He does not want to date you. He likes you. but not enough. And I'm so sorry because I know that that sucks, and it has nothing to do with you, and it has everything to do with him. And I don't think that you should give it any more of your time. If he's consistently ghosting you and he says that he wants to be with you, that's his actions and his words are not lining up. And at the end of the day, why would you want to be with someone like that? Why would you want to be with someone who ghosts you? Why would you want to be with someone who gives you the runaround and makes you like go all through the up and downs and all of the things? Why would you want to be with someone like that? You deserve better than that. You deserve someone who is sure about you. You deserve someone who is consistent. You deserve someone who is 100% without a shadow of a doubt knows, I want to be with her, and I'm not going to make her wait 6 years. 6 years. You're telling me there's nowhere in that 6 years that he no, I'm sorry. Maybe this is really harsh, but I just feel like I wish that I could go back and tell myself at different phases of life, turn around, walk away. Walk away while you still have the ability to, meaning don't let him do it for you. You need to pick yourself up and you need to walk away, because I promise you'll be sitting here for the next 6 years doing the same thing if you let him. Okay, this is interesting. How did you start your brand? I want to start my own coaching business, but I'm not entirely sure where to start. Do I do business cards, marketing, TikTok, Reels, podcast? I'm torn. What was your push to make the jump? So I think I've talked about this a little bit on a previous episode about how I started my social media journey and how I started my social media path. But to just give you the spark notes of it, I was in college in 2015 for a year. I was at Belmont here in Nashville for their vocal program. And after a year of schooling, I went back to San Diego and I was like, it's not for me. I don't like it. It wasn't the right fit. So I stayed in San Diego, and I had always been interested in YouTube. I don't know what this is. I had a psychic once tell me that I was psychic, and I always wonder if this is what that was. But I always just had a feeling growing up and watching some of my favorites on YouTube that I was always going to get into this career path in one way or another. I always just kind of had this feeling. And so when I went home from college and all of my friends were in school and no one was at home, and I felt like I had, not really a lot of friends and there wasn't much to do, I was like, why not do this now? Because if people are going to make fun of me for it, which obviously they did, I was like, at least they can't do it to my face. I'm not going to see them, so I can just do this now and we'll go from there. And so I started on YouTube. And I started doing lifestyle content. So story times were really big at the time. This was in 2017. I started doing story times. I've started doing vlogs. I did playlist videos. Drive with me is the whole thing. 6 months into my content, I added in true crime. About 2 years later, we started Killer Instinct in 2019, and we've been doing Killer Instinct ever since, as well as starting My Thoughts Exactly about 2 years ago, a little over 2 years ago, and throwing in some lifestyle videos here and there within the mix of all of that. What pushed me to make the jump was realizing that I finally wanted to take control of my own life. I was kind of sick of everyone else telling me that this was the path that I had to follow. I had to go to college. I had to, finish my classes. I had to kind of follow this straight and narrow line of what everyone was expecting me to do, where, as I said, kind of in my heart and in my gut, I always knew that I was going to be doing something a little bit different. I always knew that this was something that I wanted to do, and this was something that I was really passionate about. And so I finally made the decision, you know what, I'm just gonna go for it and I'm gonna do it. And I'm not gonna let anyone tell me that I can't. I'm not gonna let anyone psych me out of it. This was something that I was passionate about, and this was something that I was gonna do. And then I did. And yeah, it was hard in the beginning. Yeah, people made fun of me in the beginning, but I do think that if you're starting now, my biggest tips would be that you have to start something you're passionate about. It has to be something that you're willing to talk about. It has to be something that you want to talk about. It has to be something that you could talk about for hours and hours and hours and hours, something that you could just go on and on and on and on and about, because you will, because you're going to be talking to a camera, you're going to be talking to yourself, and you're going to want to make sure that you have things that are interesting to you that you want to talk about, because your audience can read that. They can understand when they're watching something, if you're half-assing something or if you're actually committed to what you're saying. I think that there's a very big difference. And I do think with how saturated social media has become with TikTok and Instagram and YouTube and everyone wanting to be the world's next influencer, I think that something that we're seeing, especially now, is the contrast in people who are actually dedicated to what they're talking about and are actually, passionate about what they're saying, versus the people that are in it just to kind of be in it to either make money or because they think that it's cool now or whatever. The good news is you probably won't have too many people that are making fun of you, because now everyone wants to do it. And so the times have changed completely. I would say, if I were you, what I would start with is, I think TikTok might be the easiest, not easiest, but I think it might be the best way way to reach a mass audience quickly. I think that by consistently uploading videos, I would say maybe like 3 to 5 videos a day in the beginning, just to really get things ramped up, and talk about yourself, talk about your experiences, talk about what you're offering with your coaching. I think just getting your name out there. I think taking those videos and then putting them onto reels on Instagram, so you have those going through the Instagram algorithm as well, will be really helpful. I think that if you want to get into YouTube, doing YouTube. I think if you want to start a podcast, getting into podcasting. But I would kind of start somewhere where you feel it'll be the most attainable. I wouldn't do everything at once. Like I wouldn't do the TikTok and the podcast and the YouTube videos and the reels like all at once. I would kind of stick to maybe starting with TikTok, have that going for a couple months while doing the reels and while getting the business side of things set up, and maybe then adding in the podcast when you feel like you have a little bit more of a foundation and a little bit more of a base. But that would be my biggest kind of like tip, I think, is what I would say. But I think that from the sounds of it, you're really passionate about what you're doing. And I think that that's amazing. And I think that when there's passion, there's no way that you can go wrong. And I think that when there's passion, people want to listen. And I think that you just have to be patient, because I think a lot of times people get into social media thinking like it's going to be a quick, people are going to see it and they're going to jump on and it's going to be like an overnight thing. Sometimes that works for people. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it's more of a long game. And I think that you have to just be willing and able to stick it out for some time and just waiting for the people to come, because they will. You just have to give it a little bit of time. But that would be my biggest tip. I would say upload very consistently and very often in the beginning. Use the hashtags, use all of the things, have it come up on people's For You pages. And as things continue to grow and your audience continues to grow, start to spread that out over different ventures like a podcast or a YouTube channel or things like that. That would be my biggest tip. But good luck. It's going to be amazing. And I can't wait to see it. Okay, next one. My mother-in-law is inviting random people to my wedding without asking my fiance and I. Help. Okay, hell no. I'm saying this as a future 2025 bride. Hell no. I don't care if it's my mother-in-law. I don't care if it's my mother. I don't care who it is. No one is inviting random people to my wedding. It's just not happening. I think if I were you, let me backtrack. I think this is my philosophy when it comes to weddings. Weddings are the one day where you do get to be selfish. Yes, you want your guests to have fun. Yes, you want it to be an enjoyable experience for everyone. Yes, you want it to be, great, amazing, all of the things. But it is the one day where the day is about you, other than your birthday. But this is the real one day. This is the once in a lifetime event. This is your freaking wedding. If I were you, because it's your mother-in-law, I would tell your fiance, talk to your mom, talk to your mother. What is she doing? Why is she doing this? And why does she think it's okay? I would say, did you give her the green flag to start inviting random people? Why is she doing that? And why does she think that she can just start doing that? That would just rub me the wrong way. I do think that you might need to tread lightly, because obviously this is going to be your future family and you don't want to start off on the wrong foot, but she's kind of making that decision for you. So if I were you, I would have your fiance go to her, because it's his mom, and I would have them say, listen, mom, we're not sure who's making the guest list yet. We're not sure who we're inviting. If you want to give us a list of people that you want to be invited and we can review it and make our decision when we see that list, that's fine. But we would really appreciate if you did not go around inviting random people to the wedding, because that is our decision. And if she doesn't respect that, then that's really weird. I'm sorry. I would be livid if I were you. I would not be happy. This is when Bridezilla would come out if I were you. I would say, if it were me, I would have my fiance talk to her, because it's his mom and he can deal with it. And if he needs backup, then fine. I do think that there needs to be some treading lightly, because you obviously don't want there to be any animosity when you get married. But at the end of the day, it's your wedding. At the end of the day. So if there needs to be animosity, let there be. If she wants to be upset because you don't want to invite someone that you've never met to your freaking wedding, let her be upset. But my kind of gauge of all of this is I would let the fiance do it, because again, it's his mom and he can handle it. And if not, then that's when you come in. But I would, if I were him, I would give him give her the option of, making a list of people that she wants, and then you guys going through that together and seeing who's important. I also think that it depends on what size wedding you're having. If you're having a small wedding, no, sorry, you're not inviting just these random people. Even if you're having a massive wedding, you get to choose who you want to invite for your wedding. It's your wedding. It's not hers. Remember that. Okay, you guys, I do want to mention that there are a couple in here that were sent via a photo. And for whatever reason, my phone is not letting me open the photos, so I cannot read the messages. I do want to say for the next What Would Sav Do, or if you want to just message me your What Would Sav Do that you did for this one, and I can like respond to you personally, just send it to me via a DM. We can do that for next time too, instead of the pictures, because I don't like that you guys have sent in things that I can't see, because I want to be able to get to all of these. So either DM me what you said in the picture and I can just respond to you personally, or again, we can do it to where the next time you can just send it through a DM. Okay, last one. How do I give my all to a new sweet boy when I'm still missing my abusive and toxic ex-boyfriend? I think this comes down to filming another episode of like accepting the love we think we deserve versus embracing the love that we actually deserve. I think that it is very normal to miss an ex, and I think that that comes with a sense of missing the comfortability that someone used to give you, especially if you're just used to toxic relationships and you've convinced yourself that that's all you deserve. When someone actually approaches you with a new version of love that you aren't used to, it feels uncomfortable and it feels unsettling because you don't know how it's going to progress and you don't feel like you are worthy of that love. So you feel like you have to push it away instead of embrace it. I feel like I would challenge you to actually just, instead of trying to fight the feelings that you might have for this new person, I would embrace them rather than put up the defense automatically because it's something new that you're not used to. I think that when it comes to your ex, again, it's natural, it's normal to sometimes miss and reminisce and have feelings, but don't let that stop you from accepting a love and embracing a love that you actually do deserve, and accepting and embracing someone into your life that is actually worthy. Well, I guess we don't know that yet, but just embracing a new kind of love that you're not used to. You deserve to have someone who is nice and sweet and kind and respects you and all of the things. Love is not supposed to be toxic. Love is not supposed to be up and down and abusive and all of those things that you're used to. So naturally, you're going to have your guard up and you're not going to want to fully embrace what's being shown right in front of you. But I would just challenge you to try your best to be as present as you possibly can and to remind yourself that you are worthy of the type of love that you are getting and the type of, maybe not love, but likeness or admiration that you are receiving from this new person. And I know that's easier said than done, but I promise you it could be worth it in the end. That was like me with Hayden. Hayden was the nice guy and I was not used to nice guys. And at first I was like, like it took Hayden 4 times to ask me to be his girlfriend before I finally said yes, because I was like, no, like you're too nice. And then I realized, Savannah, what are we doing here? But with that being said, you guys, that's going to be all for me today. Thank you so much for tuning in to this part 2 of What Would Sav Do and my thoughts exactly. Again, if you're new here, make sure you go ahead and hit that subscribe button. That way you never miss an episode. We post weekly here on the podcast every single Friday. You're not going to want to miss it. I will be back next week with a brand new one for you guys, and I'll see you then. Bye, guys.